So after a couple months, I started to realize I might have a problem. I was actually reading through the DSM-4, which is a giant book that medical professionals use to diagnose patients when they are struggling with a mental health issue. And I got to the page on anorexia and I was like, wow, this is me. I read the description and I felt like that was me exactly. And that's really when I started to come to terms with, I actually have a problem here and I probably should do something about it.
Tired of feeling exhausted after training? Confused about how to fuel your body without all the food rules? Welcome to Female Sports Nutrition, where I'll help you fuel strong, build muscle, and perform your best, all while breaking free from diet culture. I'm Kristen, a sports dietitian, trainer, and Jesus lover, and I'm here to help you fuel with freedom. Lace up your shoes, grab that smoothie, and let's jump in.
You trying to get stronger and boost your performance, but your poor body image is getting in the way? Do you hate the way you look to the point that it makes your skin crawl? Is your anxiety preventing you from actually eating? Do you also just not know what you should be eating to get stronger? If you answered yes to any of these questions, today's episode will be a game changer for you. I was in your shoes, and I'm going to tell you all about my struggles, the biggest problems I see for female athletes, and what steps you can take to get over this hump. So tighten your ponytail, grab a pen and paper to take some notes, and let's get it. I know you're so sick of Googling what and how much you should be eating to get stronger and healthy, only to become more confused than you were before. I know you're tired of feeling like you can't eat anything because it's bad for you, or it'll make you gain weight, or who knows what else. I know you just want to build muscle and confidence the right way without the food police giving you misinformation. It's time to stop scouring the internet and feeling stuck, not sure where to start. I want to show you the easiest and simplest way to get stronger, build back that confidence, and no longer struggle with undereating and underperforming. I'm offering a free 30-minute one-on-one consultation with me so we can explore what's holding you back, what your goals are, and map out a plan to get you there. To snag your spot, head on over to elitenutritionandperformance.com/consult, but hurry because there's only a limited number of spots available. So many moons ago, I was struggling with a poor relationship with my body and also with food. I felt like I took up too much space in the room. I just felt like I was this big person and I was taking up too much space and I needed to be as little as possible and take up as little space as possible, which is really kind of a sad thought now thinking back. I didn't think that I looked like I worked out as much as I did. And quite frankly, I probably didn't. But then what wound up happening was because I didn't like the way that I looked, and one person made a negative comment to my sister, which got back to me, I wound up actually cutting out a lot of food and starving myself. And I wound up losing about 30 pounds in 2 months, which is not a whole lot of time to lose 30 pounds. And so then after doing that whole process of starving myself and really feeling pretty terrible, I started getting compliments. And quite frankly, that wasn't really helping me. In fact, it was probably adding fuel to the fire. I really felt like, wow, maybe not eating is the answer. And I look skinnier and I look more toned. And so I should just keep doing what I'm doing. So things really spiraled out of control for me. I started skipping meals. And instead of eating, I wound up actually just drinking coffee for my dinner. That was my dinner. I was drinking coffee instead. And as you know, coffee is really not providing your body with a whole heck of a lot of nutrients. It's not doing anything for you if you want to get stronger, which I definitely did. I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to build muscle, but I just couldn't because I wouldn't allow myself to eat. I wouldn't allow myself to eat enough, and I really wouldn't allow myself to eat throughout the day because, like I said, I was skipping meals. I felt that I needed to keep my weight under control. That was the biggest problem to me, was that I was too big and I weighed too much, and I was more focused on the number than the number of weights that I could lift. That didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but you get the idea. I was focused on the wrong numbers, really. I was focusing on what my weight was, which honestly doesn't make a whole lot of sense now because no one's going to walk around with their weight tattooed on their forehead. Nobody knows what your weight is. And quite frankly, nobody even cares what your weight is. So why did I care? And why should you care? Your weight does play a small role in the big picture, but it's a very, very small role. So I wasn't eating enough, like I said, and I wasn't really eating enough protein because protein to me just felt too heavy. It made it feel like that meal was too much food and it was going to make me gain weight and it wasn't what I needed. It was just going to be too heavy of a meal. So I would just skip the protein or I would eat very little of it and I would just fill up on a lot of vegetables instead. And that made me feel like I had something in my stomach. But at the same time, I hated the feeling of feeling full. That literally made my skin crawl to the point that it would make me angry. I hated that feeling and I never wanted to get to that point. So I just ate just enough to get food in my stomach to essentially like quiet the hunger. And feeling hungry to me was like the norm. That was kind of what I was going for. But yet at the same time, I wanted to look more toned. I wanted to build muscle. I wanted to get stronger and I wanted to boost my performance. At this point, I was still swimming. And so I just wasn't doing those things. I was not getting any better. I remember when I was on swim team, they ranked the swim rows in the pool. So whichever lane that you were in, you were either in the fast lane or the slow lane. So it went from, the slowest to the fastest lane. And I remember being in the slower lanes and being so jealous of the people that were in the faster lanes and just so envious. I wanted to be in those faster lanes, but yet I wasn't fueling my body with what I needed to make it to those faster lanes, to get stronger so that I could make it to those faster lanes. And during this time, I started doing triathlons as well. And I really wanted to excel in triathlons because I had the swimming background. My dad was into cycling, so I'd go cycling with him. And so I thought, all I have to do is just add in the running. But same thing, I wasn't fueling my body enough so that I wasn't getting stronger and I wasn't increasing my performance. In fact, I was going backwards. And then as my body's last ditch effort to, keep it afloat, I wound up losing my period. And to me, this was like, well, this is great. I don't have to deal with that. And unfortunately, I see this in a lot of athletes is that nobody wants to deal with having a period. And they also equate your period to just normal training. But I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Your body will get rid of any functions that aren't absolutely necessary to keep your body alive, like having a period or menstruating. Menstruating is not an essential function to keep you alive. It is an essential function for you to be healthy and, have babies if you want at some point, but also to get stronger. There's a lot of things that it actually does, but it's not essential to keep you alive. And so this is one of the things that your body's going to let go of when it's not getting enough of what it needs. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I'm here to tell you, if you are not getting a period, that is a problem. Does not mean it's a good thing, and you should just sit back and relish in the fact that you're not getting a period. So after a couple months, I started to realize I might have a problem. I was actually reading through the DSM-4, which is a giant book that medical professionals use to diagnose patients when they are struggling with a mental health issue. And I got to the page on anorexia and I was like, wow, this is me. I read the description and I felt like that was me exactly. And that's really when I started to come to terms with, I actually have a problem here and I probably should do something about it. But I didn't know what to do. So what wound up happening was things actually got worse. I got really, really hungry. And so on days where I felt like I overate, I would feel really bad about myself. I would actually weigh myself multiple times a day. And then if my weight went up, I just couldn't handle it. So all I could do was go to sleep. And I would try to over exercise to counteract what I ate. And on those days where I felt like I overate, I actually called them fat days. And then I wound up trying to purge, which I never really wanted to do, but I was kind of at this point where like I felt so terrible about myself that I was like, I have to get rid of this. And so I would try to purge, but I was too scared. So I never wound up doing that. So, but I certainly would over exercise. And then because I was so hungry some days, I would binge eat. It was just like I couldn't help myself. And then I would feel really bad about myself. And the whole cycle would just repeat itself. So a lot of nights I remember going to bed starving. This is in particular when I was in college. I would go to bed starving, thinking about everything that I was going to eat the next day. I would think like, if I could just get to breakfast, I'll be okay. I can fill my stomach then with something. And I would kind of think through the whole day of what I was going to eat. And This really took up so much time and energy. I also remember standing in front of the mirror for hours at a time, picking myself apart and just feeling horrible about myself. I was in a really, really bad place at this point. But the good news is when you're in a really, really bad place, the only place to go is up. So that's exactly what happened. I remember sitting in one of my nutrition classes and the professor showed a picture of a cross section of a older woman's leg who didn't exercise. She was sedentary compared to a younger female athlete's leg. So if you were to take your thigh and kind of cut it in half and look at it from the side that was where it was cut, it showed this older woman's leg that didn't work out. It was a lot of fat and just a little bit of muscle and a little bit of bone. And then you took the younger female athlete and her leg was just a thin layer of fat, a lot of muscle and some bone. And I was like, wow, I will never not exercise a day in my life because I want to have that muscle. But the next slide that he showed was a chart of your muscle mass when you are eating normally. So the muscle mass was going up or at least staying the same compared to somebody that was starving themselves. So in anorexia, the muscle mass just went down, down, down. And then compared that to somebody that had uncontrolled diabetes. Again, the muscle mass was just going down, down, down. And that was a defining moment for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to eat to actually build muscle and get stronger. And it sounds so stupid now saying it out loud, but at the time, I couldn't see the forest through the trees. I was just that far into it. But that was a defining moment where I realized, wow, I actually have to eat if I want to get stronger. So the first thing I did was I wound up getting help. I actually joined a group on campus that helped girls that were struggling with disordered eating. Quite frankly, I didn't really want to go, but I went and I so totally understand that feeling where you don't want to go because you don't want to deal with it, but you really need to do it. And that's where I was. But I'm so glad that I went because it made me address my diet history and also what contributed to all this. So family history and my need for control. So family history, meaning my mom was always on a diet. Sorry, mom, if you're listening to this, but it's true. My mom was always on a diet growing up, and so was my older sister. And so I watched that thinking that that was normal. And, my mom would complain about how she looked in the mirror and things like that. And so I thought that that was normal. So I remember complaining about myself when I had 6-pack abs when I was a swimmer, which is just crazy to now think about. But that's, how far into it that I was. I just felt like I was overweight, even though I wasn't at that time. So I had to really address those things. My need for control, needing to control every little thing, including everything that I put in my mouth, and then my family history. Next, I had to get out of that food police mentality. And quite frankly, I was the food police. I was doing it to myself. I had that black and white mentality of this food is good, this food is not. I can eat this, but I can't eat that. Really, that is just not an ideal way to think because the fact of the matter is there's no food that is 100% off limits. There's no bad food. There's only a bad diet. So I had to get out of that black and white mentality and really stop being the food police for myself. Instead, what I wound up doing was learning to trust my body through intuitive eating. And let's think about intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is where you have intuition about what your body is telling you. So you're really in tune with your body, essentially. So think of a baby. When a baby is hungry, what does it do? It screams because it's hungry. And as soon as you give it milk, it's going to scarf down that milk. And then when it's done, it's going to spit out the bottle. It's not going to keep drinking more milk. It knows when it's hungry and it knows when it's full, and it's going to cry when it's hungry and it's going to stop drinking when it's full. And we are all born with that, but eventually we start to lose that intuition. So I started to become more intuitive and more in tune with my body through the process of intuitive eating. I also didn't know what I needed to eat to build muscle, to get stronger, to get healthy. And so I learned those things. And this is exactly what I do during my one-on-one sessions with athletes is I combine the science of sports nutrition, so you know exactly what you need to be eating so that you can reach your goals, you can get stronger, you can boost your performance, and you can get out of that mess. But I combine that with intuitive eating so that you can actually learn how to be more in tune with your body, because your body is very, very smart. It's very intelligent, and it knows exactly what you need and when. So if you can combine those two, intuitive eating plus the science of sports nutrition, you're golden. You can build the muscle that you want. You can get stronger. You can boost your performance. You can get faster. You can do all the things and be healthy and be happy and not have to worry about what you look like and what the weight is on the scale. But here's the deal. This is not something that you can find on the internet, because we're all so very different and we require different things. So if this is you struggling with a poor body image and you know that that's getting in your way of building muscle, getting stronger, boosting your performance, all the things, now is the time for you to reach out for a free 30-minute one-on-one session with me, where we will talk about what is standing in your way, what your situation is now, what your struggles are, what your goals are, and how we can get you there and get you started. You literally have nothing to lose. Like I said, when you're in the bottom, the only place you have to go is up. And here is your invitation to go up. If you are struggling with this, the anxiety is just overwhelming and it's getting in your way of reaching your goals, now is the time, and this is your sign to reach out. All you need to do is go to elitenutritionandperformance.com/consult, and I will drop that link below for you to schedule this free 30-minute one-on-one session with me. Like I said, all you can do is go up from here. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, elitenutritionperformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.